Word, yeah. No, that's a bit.
I'm fighting words right there. No, but when you ask me to bring an item that represents me and that grounds me, I think that La Virgencita, I mean, I dedicate a lot to her, and anytime I'm going through, I'm like, Virgencita, guide me. Like, you know, and trying to make sure that my daughter keeps the same culture and knowledge and upbringing, because if our grandparents didn't teach us and our parents didn't teach us, then those traditions die with us, and I refuse to let my culture and heritage die with me.
A-P, yeah. They Mr. owe me like Aaron, what happened? I can't go backwards, this my new chapter. Move to Atlanta, them trappers and scammers. I pray for my youngins, you talking about practice? On the track, I go ape like bananas.
Peace, beautiful family. This is Dr. Walter Hidalgo. Shout out. This is the Know Thyself podcast. The Know Thyself podcast utilizes the metaphor of the shelf in order to extrapolate the self. And the way we do that is we invite guests to come in and share something about them shelves. And before I introduce my guest, man, let me just get through this agenda. Definitely check out the website, www.knowthyshelf.tv. There you'll find information on my book, Beyond the Four Walls, The Rise of Ministry and Spirituality of Hip Hop. My coaching services, if you have a child between the ages of 4 and 16, holla at me. I go to your home, and it's like Big Brother meets personal coach. Holla at me. I do workshops, trainings. Shout out to Italy. I'll be presenting there the Jubilee year. That's pretty dope. By the time this come out, it'll be late, but it's just good to put it into the ecosystem because we do this. I say not me because it's never about me. The other thing I want to do is I want to give a big shout out to a group of individuals. And today I want to give a big shout out to the borough that I love, that I never got to live at, and that I secretly felt like I was supposed to be there. Shout out to Brooklyn. Yo.
Brooklyn!
I want to give a big shout out to anyone that provides religious education. I don't care if you do it at a mosque, a church, in the basement of the YMCA, like the attic of your house, man. Like, share the word, man. Like, we need this spiritual food. So shout out to all of you. Shout out to all my women in ministry. Yo, man. Yeah. And I also want to give a big shout out, of course, to all my mamas. I freaking love my mom. I am who I am because somebody loved me. That's what Dr. West says. My mama loved me, and that's the reason I give love. Because I got somebody here that I love, that I respect, that I admire. My sister from another, Vanessa Garcia.
It's me. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Walter, for having me here. Dr. Walter, for having me here.
Don't get too formal.
No, it's a great honor to be here. It's funny going back the years that we've known each other and seeing this happen today. It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No, honored, humbled, grateful, and I always wanted to start off with family, with friends. You know, the Rolodex, you know, and I say this with humility, is big, but I got to start with family and friends because y'all see me through the highs and lows, through the lefts and right, and we've gone deep with a lot of stuff, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but as we always do, I like to contextualize things. Obviously, Back to the Future. You seen that movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that a classic? Like that movie? That's a good movie.
If you haven't seen it,
you're living under a rock.
Yeah.
You know, so if we were to step into that car and go back in time to a younger Vanessa, what would we see? What would we hear? What would we smell? Because you're originally from
Brooklyn, originally. Yeah.
BK, stand up.
All day.
Talk to us.
So, I don't know. Growing up, I grew up in a very loving household. My parents worked a lot. My dad was a corrections officer. My mom worked in the phone company out in Syosset, Long Island, so far from where we live.
Yep.
But they always taught until this day, always taught us how to give back and how to love, right? So my house was the house that everyone would go to on the block, you know, because there was always an extra plate of food, there was always something going on, and my house was that safe haven for a lot of kids in the neighborhood, not even just on the block. My mom left her job when I was about 4 years old, almost 5. My grandmother passed away, and my grandmother was the one that was taking care of us for my parents to work. Well, my grandparents, but my grandfather was working as well. So when she was forced to leave her job, because my brother was a year old, and you know how us Latinos are, we don't leave our kids with just anybody.
Word.
So when my grandmother wasn't there to take care of us, my mom left her job and she became our caretaker. My dad picked up extra shifts, and I rarely saw him, but I knew that he was, you know, he loved us, and because he loved us, he was working to make sure that we had mommy at home with us. I'm one of 4 siblings.
Oh, me too.
I'm the only girl. I have 3 brothers.
I'm the opposite.
Yeah. So I have 3 brothers, which life growing up with brothers is interesting, right? We had a lot of wrestling and fighting over Power Rangers, and I never liked the color pink, and I always wanted to be the red or blue ranger, and they were very adamant that I had to be the pink or the yellow ranger, so there was always arguing and fighting. But my parents always gave back. So my dad being adopted, my parents took in foster kids when I was young. So even though it's 4 of us, I say I literally have like an unlimited amount of siblings, because there was never that word stepbrother or stepsister was never in our vocabulary, and that word foster brother and foster sister is disgusting. It was never in our vocabulary. So
it's super systemic, institutional, right?
And it makes them feel, my parents never wanted them to feel any less than us, because you don't take on that role to being a foster parent to make them feel like they're just there because you're getting money to help them, because the money that you're given is for the kid, it's not for you. You know. So my parents, like I said, my dad was adopted, so that was his way of giving back. My grandmother was a foster mom, so my mom grew up with a few little foster siblings, and she was heartbroken when they were taken away, because she was so close to them. So it was something that was instilled in them and kind of just kept going. There's been, I think, I lost track, but I think there was about 75 to 80 kids that went through the doors of our house from my age of about 5 to I think 17 was when my parents stopped taking in foster kids, or like the agency kind of shut down and closed, and then they just never went with another agency. So that's a long period of time, and a lot of kids that have gone in and out of the house. Most of which we still have a relationship with. So like I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and you know, I social media has a lot of bad, but also a lot of good. I thank God for social media to be able to keep in touch with all of them. But yeah, so growing up, it was a very chaotic but loving home. It's something that I wanted to give to my own kid, because I'm like, she's an only child, and none of the 3 brothers that I have any children. So I'm grateful for some of those other kids that came along the way that do have kids that she gets to you know, enjoy. And my cousins and stuff, they have kids more or less her age, so we're able to kind of give her a glimpse of what I had growing up. But of course the world is just so different. You know, we grew up playing outside in the parks and chilling and playing manhunt and football and not video games and stuff. I mean, we had the Sega Genesis back then. She's dating and us. The Nintendo 64. We had all of that, but that wasn't our end all be all where it is now. So yeah, I mean, that was home life. And then I guess to where I am now, so as you said earlier, women in ministry, director of village education.
Slow down, son, you're killing it. I don't know if I should say slow down, son or daughter, better. But you know, that's her talk. But yeah, no, I think.
I'm used to being son.
Yeah.
That's the New York thing.
Facts. Yes, that's true. I'm loving this, because the more you share of this, now I see more of
why
who
I
you
am,
are
and why I am.
And why, and but they don't know.
Hard.
But I do want to know, because I like what you said, because you answered it for me. Because definitely now we're living in a time where it seems the community has kind of transferred over to the digital side, like the
People
blocks.
Don't know how to talk to
yeah, like we don't. Yeah, like where is your mom's like blueprint? Where's that happening now?
Oh, it's still going. It's
good,
still going.
good. Yeah.
That my mom is. I always tell people my mom is a saint. She really is, and she's very humble, so she doesn't like when I say things like that. She's just like, I have love to give, and I'm gonna give it, and that's it. But actually, my mom is the one that started the migrant ministry at the parish.
Well, slow down. Okay, hold on. So, we have a lot in common. It's interesting. So, you did your undergrad in criminal justice and poli-sci. No, I did in poli-sci.
You did poli-science. I did criminal justice.
But both criminal justice. And now I see your dad, correctional officer. I'm like, okay, there's that connection. For me, nobody was in police. We all hated the police. My dad, for me, it was more like I felt it was justice. I wanted justice, right? So then I shifted gears and was like, how do I incorporate justice? But I also love teaching and history and people and serving. So both of us kind of went super far left. I tell people the Walter before Union Theological Seminary and after are two completely different people, man. But that's just me. But my question for you is, where did this switch, like what was happening in the between? I got this CJ degree, but I'm about to go do this ministry theology situation.
God is funny. He has a sense of humor. He really does.
Yeah.
So, after I graduate, rewind a little bit. When I was in college, my daughter was born. So my goal was to go into law school, actually. My goal was always to become...
Mine's too.
My goal was to become a child advocate. Because I saw what my brothers and sisters in the system were going through. And out of all... When I tell you, mira, se me paran los pelos.
No, mine's too, because I worked in so many...
When I tell you that... Out of all the caseworkers that I met while they were coming to do home visits and stuff like that, there was only maybe about 3 or 4 that actually cared about the kids.
Sure. Yeah.
And now, I don't say that lightly, because actually right after I graduated college, I went off to be a caseworker in foster care.
Okay.
Because I was like, I want to be like those couple of caseworkers that cared and made the kids feel like they weren't just a burden, right? Because unfortunately, as adults, sometimes we project what we're feeling towards their parents or their behavior or on them, and it actually has nothing to do with them. Most of the time, these kids are innocent. They have no idea why they're being taken away or whatever, and they're just in unfortunate situations. So I was like, I want to be that caseworker that they can call and know that they got, I have their back. So when my daughter was born, I was like, okay, law school, not that it can't happen. There's a lot of moms out there that make it happen, and kudos to you.
Sure.
But at that point, I was like, okay, I know my limitations, and I'm juggling a lot right now. So I'm just going to pull back on law school for now, and let's see where the world takes me. So right out of college, I got the job as a caseworker. I was working as a caseworker. It was great. I loved my job. I loved helping my kids. It was a beautiful... it was a beautiful time. It was time consuming. It was exhausting.
I know.
Working, tirelessly.
Yep.
There was times where I was at home sleeping and an emergency happened, and because I was the only caseworker on my team that drove and that lived near... So now I live in Queens.
Oh, you're on call.
But I was on call all the time because the other caseworkers lived like in the Bronx and this and that, and our agency was in Queens.
Yeah.
So most of our families were in Queens. So it was like, oh, Vanessa, go and do this. Vanessa, go and do that. Even for kids that weren't on my caseload. But at the end of the day, I wasn't doing it for the job. I was doing it for the kids. So I didn't care what time you were calling me. If one of the kids were in trouble that were in our care, I was going to be there. Point blank, period. But then it got to a point where I still remember this conversation, and it still haunts me. And I don't want to say haunts me in a bad way, but it was about 11:30 at night, and I was in my house, and I got a phone call that a foster parent locked a 13-year-old out of the house in the projects. So here I am running to go and find this little girl on a Friday night, and my dad tells me, I'm not going to tell you not to go because I know you're going to go. He goes, but while you're out there saving the world's kids, your mother and I are here raising yours.
Ooh. That part.
And I kind of like looked at him, took in what he said, but didn't really take in what he said because I was just like, I had a one-track mind trying to find out where this little girl was, why she was being locked out of the apartment at 11 o'clock at night in the projects. Like, you're supposed to be taking care of this little girl, not... So my mind was there, but it wasn't until like after I got to the little girl and we got her safely placed in another place, and I'm driving home, and at this point it's probably like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, oh damn, he's not lying, you know, because I had to be at work by 9 o'clock in the morning, and because of morning traffic and this and that, I was leaving and my daughter was still sleeping.
Right. Yeah.
And my mom would be getting her ready to take her into the daycare. And then I'm getting home at 7-8 o'clock at night because now the kids need to have visits with their parents, and they're 2-hour visits 2 and 3 times a week. So even though we end at 5 o'clock, the parents don't get out of work till that time, so they're having visits till 8-9 o'clock or 7-8 o'clock. So I'm not getting home till 8:30, 9 o'clock, and because of course at that time there's no traffic, but in the morning there's traffic. So I was like, I'm getting home, either she's already sleeping or just to put her to bed.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? You're not wrong. And so that happened. And then like it stayed on the back of my mind, but I'm like, I need a job. Like, I have bills. Like, you know, life is I can't just
life is life.
leave.
Yeah.
And I was like, whatever. Like, part of me was like, you're being a bit dramatic. But, you know. And then like a week or 2 later, I had to do an emergency removal of some twins over on the other side of Brooklyn, down by like the Barclays Center.
Oh, okay.
And now our office was on like Jamaica Parsons, like 161 in Jamaica.
Okay.
So we were like on two different ends.
Yeah.
And my parish and where my mom works was literally right dead in the middle between both. And I had to pee. And I went through this emergency removal of 2 babies who were like 8 months old, and they sent me by myself, and I'm walking around with 2 car seats, and I'm going crazy, and the foster mom did not want to give up the kids. It was this whole herulu, and I'm by myself.
Sure.
And finally I get the kids in the car, and I grabbed whatever I was able to grab, and I'm like, I have to pee. And like, it's so funny me telling the story, but I'm like, I'm not gonna make it all the way back to Jamaica. But I was like, let me stop on my way. It's right on Atlantic Ave as I keep going. And let me just stop at my mom's job. And I can run in and pee real fast. Like, the kids are safe. We're going to be fine. Like, whatever.
Sure.
So I stop at the office. And I'm like, please come outside really, really fast. Watch these 2 babies so I can run in and pee. So she comes outside. And the priest that was there, his name was Father Michael. He's like, what are you doing with it? And I was like, Father, I've had a long day. I just really have to pee. Like, let me run inside. And he's like, I don't like this job for you. And he's like, he knew that the sisters that were there were being sent to Egypt. I didn't know that. He's like, I want you back here. And I was like, yeah, Father. Like, and ran in, I peed, I ran back out to the car because again, like, I had things to do. I was working. And I get back to my office, and he calls me. He was like, were those babies baptized? And I'm like, no, Father. Like, those are not our kids. Like, you know, I can't let you baptize these kids. Like,
as a priest should say.
Yeah,
okay.
you know. And he's like, well, I was serious about what I said. He's like, so, you have an interview on Monday. And I'm like, an interview for what? Like, I have a job. I love my job. I'm making a difference. Like, this is where I thought I was supposed to be. And he goes, well, I need a new DRE because the nuns are leaving. And I need more people like you that are young, that are faithful people, that have faith, and that can take religious ed to a different level. And I was like, Father, I have a job. Like, I'm not going back. Now, this is the parish that I grew up in. Sure. I was an altar server there. I was actually working there throughout high school and college as like the weekend and evening receptionist. Sure. And he was like, I need you back in the building. Now, I had never directly worked for him because he was coming in as the order that was there was leaving. So he had only heard of me being there, but I had never worked directly under him. Sure. And it's funny because my mom, being the business manager there, actually didn't want to hire me. She was like, nope. And he was like, yes, I want her here. He was like, I'm going to interview a couple of other people, but I want her here. And when we sat down, and he was like, you know, I can offer you what you're making and this and that. And he was like, and you'll have the flexibility of this and that, you know, because my daughter at that time, at this point, she was 4. She was about to turn 5. And I was like, she's starting kindergarten. I had her in the school attached to the parish. So I was like, well, if you're going to give me that flexibility, how can I really say no, right? When my dad just instilled in my head that, you know, not that I'm failing as a parent, but you're failing as a parent because you're never around, you know? Wow. And it's funny because looking back now, I'm like, bah, you worked a lot. Like, I didn't say it either. But I guess that was... Because growing up, my mom always used to say, wave to daddy, and it was her with the camcorder from back, because there was no cell phones at that time. Right. And it was her recording all my school trips. And I guess, like, as we got older, I always used to tell people, yeah, my dad was a camcorder. But I never said it in a malicious way. I knew why he was working. But I guess he didn't want me to make the same mistakes that he did. Because if you talk to my dad now, I mean... Thank God my dad, you know, had a really good career. He was able to retire. My dad retired before he was 40.
Nice.
You know, so he's been chilling at home for almost 20 years at this point. But I started having a relationship with my dad when I was in 8th grade because that was when he retired from corrections.
Wow.
And he's like, so for the first 12 to 13 years of your life, I didn't get to... My dad, the first school activity that my dad went to was my 8th grade graduation. Now, we didn't have a 5th grade graduation because in Catholic schools, they don't celebrate that. They only celebrate your 8th grade. Right. For whatever reason, they celebrate your pre-K graduation, your kindergarten graduation, but they skip your 5th grade graduation, and they go up to 8th grade. But the first time, I mean, my dad was always there for my sacraments. He was there for communion. He was there for confirmation. He was there for my baptism. But as far as school activities, the first activity that my dad went to that I can remember was my 8th grade graduation. And I guess looking back, he was just like, I don't want this life for you or my granddaughter, you know, because he was there to fill in the gaps. My mom was there to fill in the gaps, the same way my grandparents were. But he was like, but you should be there too. And that's how I ended up, honestly, at St. Michael's, all because I had a P. And the priest was like, I don't like this job, I want you here. Because in all honesty, had it not been for that, like, I can't say at that time I was practicing. So I wasn't going to mass on Sundays. So I really wouldn't have had any interaction with him. Now, I was there, like, when we used to do parish carnivals and stuff like that, because I always had so much comp time from being at work overtime, because they didn't pay us overtime. We would just be able to take those hours off. I would always take off, like, when we did parish carnivals, so that I can help my mom run the carnivals and stuff like that. So he would see me during those times, but I wasn't there on Sundays. You know, that was at that point in my life where I kind of stepped away, and I was like, nah, Saturday and Sunday I'm gonna run and do everything that I gotta do, and it wasn't necessarily a conscious decision of I'm not gonna go to mass anymore. It was just like, so much is going on with life, and you know, when you only have those 2 days to get things done, it was like, all right, let me go and get these things done, and that was what I did. And it's funny because I'm actually not a person that ever uses the restroom anywhere. Like, My dad growing up, my dad was military. He was a Marine, went into correction, so it was very, you know.
Yeah.
And we used to do a lot of road trips to Florida and stuff like that, driving. And he used to say, you have from the time I fill up the gas tank to use the restroom and grab whatever snacks you want. If you're not done by the time I'm done filling up the car, I'm leaving you behind.
Whoa.
So I never used to even get off the car. I used to go from New York to Florida and never pee. Like I never had, and I have like a phobia of public bathrooms and all that. So that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that it's funny that when I tell people, I'm like, this is how I ended up here. Like me of all people, this is how I ended up here, because I'm not that type of person.
You know, I love this story because real quickly, I remember when I was at the latter end of graduate school, and you know, Union Theological Seminary. Shout out to Columbia. Right adjacent is the Riverside Church, this huge mega church, dual denominational. And they put this ad out to go, they needed volunteers because they were bringing young people to go see The Lion King on Broadway. Nice. I loved it. Yeah, it was good. I was, the Lord, thank you. But I'll never forget, I was sitting down and everybody was arriving, and, you know, I didn't really know nobody there or whatever. But then all of a sudden, shout out to Reverend Lee. Got to get you in here. Yeah, well, he's in Cali right now. Praying for Cali, right? He came up to me and he goes, I don't know, but for some reason, God's telling me to go to you because you're going to work for me.
Wow.
Like, you're going to, and it was like, I was like, okay.
Right.
And I didn't, you know, I graduated. This was like sometime in the winter, and then I graduated that spring. I didn't find no work that whole summer. It was around the crash had just happened in 2008, so it was bad. But 2009, he calls me. Excuse me. After that summer, he calls me that fall, and he's like, Walter, I kept my word. You're coming. It was part-time, but with full-time benefits.
Oh my goodness. Talk about
miracle, yo. So I did other hustles. I was teaching. I was the first time I taught at the university. The reason I'm saying all this, again, nothing to do with me. God calls us, yo. I really do believe that God calls us in very interesting ways, you know what I mean? And, you know, you said, you know, I wasn't even going to church like that. I wasn't, and you know, me, I've always been like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Even though I grew up cradle Catholic. My parents were very, you know, strict and all that. But, you know, I grew up in the hood, and like I seen a lot. I was exposed to a lot, you know, and so I questioned faith a lot. But I was always faithful. You know what I mean? But I never thought I'd be working with the church or doing things of that nature. But nevertheless, I'm always like interested to hear folks talk about, you know, I think that's, you know, you know, the Lord said to Peter, you're going to be fisher, you know, you're going to be a fisher of men, you know, like, or women. I think that net was kind of pushed on you, yo, you know, and, and you kind of came on this journey, but, you know, you're a woman in ministry, you know what I mean? Working at the church.
There's not a nun.
That's not right. No clerical. Me too, right? I'm a lay person and all this stuff. And, you know, we've been engaging with youth and young adults, mainly young adults, a lot, you know. And we've had a lot of conversations. And I think I never, you know, I've always asked this with ministers of all denominations and faith, because I do believe we're living in a very special time. You know, well, every time is special. It's God's time, but COVID really changed the game. You know, we've seen this ministry. You're very in ministry. DRE, by the way, stands for Director of Religious Education. But I want to hear, based on what you've seen, the work that you're doing. Where do you see the church now? Looking at it at the lens of a woman who's a young adult. Excuse me.
That's a loaded question.
It is.
I think that as first, I feel that at this point, 2025, the church is finally trying to go back to the normality of pre-COVID.
Yes.
So let's start there, because
Yes.
COVID was a very scary, trying time. People are still very comfortable with watching mass via live stream.
Right.
Versus coming in person, because it's convenient, right? So you can be in the supermercado doing your compra while watching mass.
Facts, yeah. Headphones, yeah.
Right.
Facts, yes.
Versus actually dedicating that time to God. And I think that that's still a struggle that we have. I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to live stream, and people that cannot make it in person, like those that are sick and bed bound. Like we have a parishioner in our parish who is 92, I want to say.
God bless.
She was not looking. This lady does not look a day over 60, for real. Like, I went to see her before the new year, and when she was telling me how old she was, I was like, what are you drinking?
Yeah, for real, what are you
secreto, right?
What's your routine?
But because of her age, she's so scared to leave her house, because she's like, COVID, I think COVID took her husband. If I'm not mistaken, or the effects of after COVID with his lungs and stuff took her husband. So something to that effect. So now she doesn't really leave her house. So she goes, a mí me gusta ver la misa, because at least I'm seeing my church and I'm hearing my priest. And then we have people that go and take her communion. So she is participating in her way.
Right.
Now, for those people that are in the grocery store watching mass, I'm like, I mean, I guess meet people where they are, yes.
Sure.
But these are also the same people that pre-COVID were in church. So it's not a health thing or it's just a convenience thing.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, we actually stopped live streaming for a while. And I was like, if people want to come to church, they can come. But then it was those few little homebound that were like, we miss watching the mass, and I was like, all right, we'll start live streaming again. So we did. But I was like, it's one of those double-edged swords where it's like, it has good, but it also creates that, I don't want to say laziness mentality, but it's just like, you're not, come give the hour. Come give the hour. That's all God is asking of you.
Because it's something about the process, going there, getting ready,
receiving communion.
Yes, because and being with people.
Right, being in your community. So that's that. So I think that we are finally stepping away from COVID church time, and we're slowly getting back to pre-COVID, where groups are meeting in full effect, and there's actual groups, people participating in the groups, not just 2 or 3 people, because people are still scared. So I see that moving forward. And then as a woman in ministry, I want to say it's hard for me, because I grew up in East New York.
Shout out to East New York.
Yo. So I grew up in East New York. My parish is in East New York. And the church was predominantly Puerto Rican when I was growing up. Now it's very small. We have a very small Puerto Rican community, but now it's more Dominican and South American. But Latina women are different. So there's always been a presence of women in the church.
I wanted to, because it's interesting. Again, we have a lot in common in the sense that, when people ask me about women in ministry, I'm a little bit like mixed. Like, I get it because I've seen a lot of it. But I think of like my mom, who was a strong leader and very, firm in her ways. But I wanted to switch gears because in the Know That Shelf podcast, we asked people to share something from their shelf. Miss V, what do you have for us today?
All right, well, my bag is one item. So this is a bag that I got made after my wedding. So it's my bridal party, my parents, my brother, my husband, my daughter, myself, and my grandparents, and me and my daughter. These are the people that keep me grounded. These are the people that I turn to for anything and everything. And especially when it comes to my parents and my brothers, like, we don't play about each other. You know, I can call. My oldest brother lives in South Carolina. My other brother lives way out east in Long Island. My little brother lives in Astoria. But if any of us need anything, we're there at the drop of a hat. Or if my daughter, God forbid, my daughter needs anything, they're all there. Yeah. So, you know, and these are the people that I try to make proud with everything that I do. You know, I thank my grandparents for their sacrifices and leaving Puerto Rico and coming and trying to make the world and their family better. You know, my parents for sacrificing, but also instilling so much value and love into us. My husband just being a phenomenal partner.
Shout out,
dad,
the best.
The way he stepped up for Soraya is, and my brothers just being the knucklehead brothers that they are, but always being there for me. And my kids. So, and now my husband, they love him more than they love me.
Of course.
But when you ask me what represents me, so aside from my family, my culture is everything to me, right? So I am the definition of that loud and proud Puerto Rican. But this here is an image of La Virgen de la Divina Providencia, which is the image of Mary in my beautiful island of Puerto Rico. And right behind her is actually the Puerto Rican flag. Because, you know, Puerto Ricans can't walk anywhere without having a flag. We love our flag.
Shout out to Puerto Rico.
Yes, our flag means everything to us. And I don't know if I'm sure you know it, but the reason why our flag means so much to us is because it was actually illegal to fly our flag in our island.
Yeah, you get shot in sight. Absolutely.
Exactly. So now we're like, psh.
Yeah, facts. Oh, that bandera. Yeah.
So that bandera is everything to us. But it's funny that, like, I'm here now, and for any of you guys, this is a very real podcast. We are real people, and I am a huge Bad Bunny fan. And I told you last week.
I've been banging. I like that second song. That second song is hard.
So I know this is not gonna come out anytime soon, but Bad Bunny released an album January 5th of 2025, the day before the Three Kings. He said that was his gift to the people.
That's right. Wow.
He literally dressed up as the Three Kings and was like, "Aquí está tu regalo."
Wow.
I'll send that to
you. That's dope. Please do.
Video. But Bad Bunny just released an album that is a beautiful love letter to the island. But it's not just to the people on the island. It's also for the people living out here, right? So he just talks about the pride of being Puerto Rican. He talks about the sacrifices. He talks about what life is living outside of the island, and how a lot of people didn't want to leave the island, but they had to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's crazy. Ay, se me paran los pelos de nuevo. But I was actually talking to my grandfather this morning, because right now in Puerto Rico there is the feast of La Calle de San Sebastián. So it's called Sanse. And it's a musical festival where they have people dancing bomba, plena, and it's just to literally display the arts of the Puerto Ricans, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a 4-day, from a Thursday to Sunday, music, different artists every day. People like El Gran Combo, La India.
Oh, I love El Gran Combo.
Yeah, so they have local artists as well as these big artists that came from the island and everything like that. And we were watching it on TV, and as I'm like gathering my laundry, I'm like, "Hey, papi, I wanted to be there this year, and I was gonna buy tickets, but when I went back, the tickets like skyrocketed or whatever." And he was like, "You know, he's gonna be 87 on Sunday." He goes, "You know, in my 87 years of life, I've never been to one of the festivals either. Not even when I lived there." Now, of course, the festivals are in the capital. My grandfather is from the the Midwest of the island. So he's from a small town called Las Marias, which is all in La Montaña, and it's like a 3-hour drive to San Juan. So he was like, you know, even back then, there was no, not that there was no cars, but there really wasn't no cars for them. They had horses and stuff, so they were not making it to go and go to a music festival. But he was like, en verdad, it's true. I've never been either. He goes, well, you have to do what I couldn't do. So you have to make sure that you go and you enjoy the festival so that you're not 87 years old saying, I never got to do that. And he's instilled that in me for a long time, because my grandfather was a workhorse growing up, so he didn't know how to do anything but work. So my grandfather never took vacations. And then he got sick, and he's a diabetic, and he has high blood pressure, and he has glaucoma, and he has all these and he's like, now I can't enjoy these things. You know, even when he flies to Puerto Rico, he can't go for anything less than like 2 weeks, because by the time he gets there, he needs like a whole week for his legs to unswell and for his body just to adapt to the thing. So he's always telling me, I want you to live what I couldn't live. That's what I sacrificed for. So listening to the Bad Bunny album, and growing up, I was told a lot that I wasn't Puerto Rican because I was born out here and I wasn't born in Puerto Rico. And I'm like, you can't tell me that I'm not Puerto Rican. You know, and it's funny because my family in Puerto Rico, they're like, you're more Puerto Rican than us, because every year for La Virgen de la Providencia, who's the one celebrating the mass, dancing to the plena, who's the one looking like the true Jibara, and instilling that in my daughter? Me. Do my cousins on the island do that? No. Right. You know, so the joke is que la boricua de allá afuera is more Puerto Rican than the ones that live on the island. And but even now with like the when the migrants came in, a lot of them they were like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican. Oh, and when did you come to the United? And I'm like, well, I was born in New York. Then you're not Puerto Rican. And I'm like, let me school you. Yeah,
it's an interesting mentality.
Let me school you.
That's right.
Because we're Puerto Rican. We're just Puerto Rican de allá afuera. But you know that heritage still runs very deep in our veins, and you can't tell no Puerto Rican that they're not Puerto Rican.
Word, yeah. No, that's a bit.
I'm fighting words right there. No, but when you ask me to bring an item that represents me and that grounds me, I think that La Virgencita, I mean, I dedicate a lot to her, and anytime I'm going through, I'm like, Virgencita, guide me. Like, you know, and trying to make sure that my daughter keeps the same culture and knowledge and upbringing, because if our grandparents didn't teach us and our parents didn't teach us, and those traditions die with us, and I refuse to let my culture and heritage die with me. That's right. So I'm always, since little, I can show you all these pictures of Soraya celebrating the Virgencita with me, dressed in her little Jibara outfit, dancing to plena, and learning and taking that love for it, because it's different when your parents just force you to do it versus you loving, you know, and growing in love with your culture and who you are. And I think that people are starting to really see it now and showcase it, because Bad Bunny gave them the words that they couldn't find to explain it. And now, again, this is one of the double-edged swords about social media. Now, because it's in everyone's face, people are understanding the love that we have for our island, the importance of our island, especially between Hurricane Maria, which our island still has not come back from.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry. No, excuse me.
Drink more water.
Tell me.
Don't die on me, Mom.
I know.
I'm not CPR certified.
I'm good.
Hurricane Maria, our people are still suffering from that, and because of that, a lot of people left the island. And that's what he says, like in his song. A lot of people didn't want to leave, but they had no choice, and their hope is to always come back. Like, I have family members that had to leave the island because there was no jobs, there was no power, there was no, and what were they gonna do with their little kids? You know, like
right.
So they left again. It's like the history repeating itself. They left again in search of a better life for themselves and their families and their kids.
Sure.
But the hope is not to stay in Florida forever. The hope is to be able to go back to our beautiful island.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, no, my mom, she told us, she was like, I never wanted to leave. You know, she's Guatemalan. She was like, I my intentions were, you know, for y'all to get educated here, you know, and they were very aware of kind of sort of the back stigma that the United States had because of colonialism and stuff like that. They were like, should we go here? But, you know, I'm hearing everything that you're saying, and I'm like, wow, okay. Like, you're a minister. Yeah. You're a minister. You're a mom. You're an entrepreneur too. That's another side that people, which is important, you know. But you know, you're very community oriented. It's just like, wow, there's so many hats. I always ask my guests this. You know, there's maybe like somewhere out there, there's like a Vanessa in the making. Maybe not, right? So what's just one piece of advice you would give that young person who's following your path?
Don't let other people's biases and opinions affect how you feel about yourself. I was told a lot growing up that I couldn't do things, or that I wasn't gonna be able to do things, or whatever, and I allowed people's opinions to get in my head to the point that I started doubting myself and seeing myself in that light. And even when you said believe in yourself and you were showing me that over there, I was like, yeah, that's something I still struggle with, because honestly, I let everyone else's opinion affect me, or I was very much of a people pleaser and a yes man, and so I just, to keep people happy and to avoid drama, I would be like, okay, yep, that's what you want to do, yep, even if I didn't want to do it.
Sure.
So I think my biggest piece of advice is stay true to yourself, to what you believe, and to what you want, and make sure that your footprint and your legacy is what you want it to be, not what other people had planned out for you. That's
right. A woman to that. I like that, you know. And you know, it's interesting because that you say that, because, you know, I was talking to my brother-in-law, shout out to Leco, and he asked me, you know, what do you think you know, we were getting deep. I love my brother. We go deep, you know, for the holidays. And he was like, you know, what do you think the purpose of life is? And I go, I was like, okay. But you know what I said? I said, the purpose of life is to be the most authentic version of you, yo. And there's just so many layers to that, man. Like figuring out who you are, why you're here, God's here. So, you know, it's in a whole other podcast. But you know how many people walking around super fake, super sad, you know, pretending, putting on this coat, and it's all good. We got a lot of stuff going on in our life, man. Like myself included. But it has nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with the bigger world. Yeah. It's all of us trying to figure this out, you know. And, you know, I just, you know, as the brother Nori of the Drink Champs always says in his show, we got to give flowers to people while they're still alive. So I want to give you your flowers, thank you, your dandelions, your tulips, because I'm so proud of you, yo. Like, I'm very proud of you, of the person you become, and I'm very grateful. As we always do in the Know That Shelf, we end with a quote, and this one comes to us from Eleanor Roosevelt, and it reads as such. A woman is like a tea bag. You can't tell how strong she is until you put her in hot water.
That's a good one.
Peace, family.
Bye, everyone. Amazing.